The last month in high school sports was pretty difficult to follow from a health and safety standpoint. 6 high school athletes died across the country in just 17 days. All football players, all linemen. Tonight, a grieving father has a message that your high school athletes need to hear. Here's Gary Miller with a special report on athletes at risk.
Marty McNair told his only son, Jordan, a lot of things.
I thought I prepared Jordan for that journey of his life. And one of the things that I didn't prepare him for what I didn't know.
What McNair didn't know was to tell his son about the health and safety side of sports. Coaches and parents tend to tell athletes a lot. They tell them game plans. They tell them to be coachable.
And one of the things that I should have told him all his life was, in the event that you don't feel comfortable doing something, don't do it.
In June of 2018, Jordan was taking part in a hot and humid football practice at the University of Maryland when he started to struggle. According to an external review, he could, as they put it, barely stand but was walked back towards the drills. During the 8th rep, he was bending over at the waist, which was a no-no with coaches. He spent 2 weeks in the hospital and ended up dying of heat stroke.
If your body tells you to stop, stop. If a coach asks you to do something and you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to do it.
McNair says changes could be made for the future by parents and coaches having conversations with their athletes about their bodies. Tom Bolden is the football coach to one of Ohio's top football teams, Lakota West. He's also the father of football players.
Here, high school football, it's at its purest form. Kids play for the love of the game. And it's also that. It is becoming a young man. Their bodies are changing physically. They're changing mentally.
Bolden said high school football allows for a learning lab atmosphere.
You have to have those conversations. That's why you're a high school football coach.
Since last June, at least 22 athletes have collapsed from a medical emergency and died. That includes 2 local soccer players, 16-year-old Matthew Mangine Jr. and 16-year-old Ethan Trejo. Trejo died from sudden cardiac arrest. Mangine's death came back undetermined. So why, when Jordan's death made national headlines, didn't collapsing on the sideline end there?
Miseducation. And I think that one of the things that I've noticed in our 3 years of advocating is I can go out and talk to people and I can tell our story and I can say, hey, this is what you should have, or these are the systems in place you should have in place, or this is the preventive equipment you should have in place. And one of the main things, and I can empower student athletes, what's going to make it stick?
For Bolden, information is one part of prevention.
My trainers, I get an injury report every night that he'll send me in terms of what guys can do each day and things like that.
But if a kid isn't on the report, Bolden said they need to feel like they can still speak up.
Kids have to advocate for themselves with this as well. You know, not feeling well. Something might have happened in the game that hours later you got home and then now all of a sudden you're feeling it and things like that. I have a 24/7 policy. These kids can reach out to me, but that's part of them becoming young adults, advocating for themselves.
It's about empowering kids to speak up as freely as they play the game. Gary Miller, Local 12 News.
The Jordan McNair Foundation now tries to educate parents, coaches, and even legislators on the health and safety of all athletes. To learn more about preventative equipment, athletic trainers, and tips for these conversations with an athlete you know, head to athletesatrisk.com.